everyone, this is Shelly with Shelly's Images, and today I'm going to show you how I made this fun three-dimensional box card, I guess is the best way to describe it. I'm going to slide the ribbon through the buckle so I can open it and show you what it looks like on the inside. For this project I used the Field of Dreams Digistamp, and you can see with the different layers it kind of creates a three-dimensional effect, like the horse is back there behind the fence. So I'm going to close this up and we'll just get started right away on a few tips and techniques that will help you make a project like this. I'm going to slide in my craft mat and reach over for my water so that I can get these sparkling H2Os wet. If you haven't used sparkling H2Os, they're really a fun water-based paint, kind of like watercolors. And so I'm just going to add some water and let that soften up a little bit as I bring in some of this other pieces that we'll need here. This is the tree frame, the cut that makes up the tree layer. We'll be offering both the tree layer and the fence layer at the blog, so be sure you visit the blog if you'd like to get those. We'll offer them as both a cut file and as a template so that you can just do some fussy cutting if you want to make a project like this. I'm also going to bring in the Field of Dreams print off. This is actually the full color Field of Dreams that I've just printed off in the 5x5 size. It's perfect for this project. And the reason I want to bring it in right now is because I want to kind of get a look at where the grass layer should be. With the sparkling H2Os, I'm going to create kind of the effect of a sky and some grass to kind of finish off this top layer. And so that just gives me kind of an idea of an area to shoot for. So since I kind of splash and get messy, I'm going to move this out of the way and get started on this fun technique. A lot of times when we use sparkling H2Os, we use them just by using a paintbrush in the color and painting it directly onto our project. Today I'm going to use this acrylic block. And I'm going to use a really small one today because I'm working in a very small kind of space around this. But on my acrylic block, I'm just pushing around the paint, kind of trying to break it up a little bit so that I've got areas of just block showing through and areas of paint. And then what I'm going to do with the acrylic block is just set it down on top of my project and kind of bounce it around and move it around. And you can kind of already see how that's going to give us kind of the feel of a sky around this, a real loose kind of watercolory interpretation, which I think is so fun. And the block kind of helps it be a little bit more free. I don't have the tendency to kind of try to paint in a sky this way, and so I'm just going to keep dabbing and moving the water around with the block until I kind of get the look that I'm looking for. I do have 3 different colors of sparkling H2O here in the blue color family, and that's kind of a nice tip as you're doing anything, whether it's painting or Copic coloring. If you can add some variation to the colors, it really adds depth and dimension and interest to your project. So as I'm painting here a little bit, I do want to be sure that I mention that I've been traveling around to so many fun blogs lately, and the inspiration for this came from one of the blogs that I was visiting. And so at the blog, when I make this post there, I'll be sharing a couple of those links with you so that you can visit some of these really talented crafters that are putting out wonderful tutorials for all of us to learn from. I'm just going to keep painting and building here and let you watch while I continue. Okay, what I have now is just kind of what we were talking about before, just kind of a loose interpretation of the sky. I'm going to kind of clean out my brush and get just some water on it and go in now and kind of blend out some of these kind of splotchier areas. Since this is the sky, I want kind of a mottled effect. I don't want it to be too blotchy and kind of choppy. I want it to look more like the sky. So with the brush I can go in and blend some of these areas out. I will remind you that, like with any kind of painting, it's going to look different when it dries, so you know, don't get too wrapped up in how it looks, or if you don't think it's just perfect, wait till it dries and then kind of make a decision then. I'll also tell you that I did print this on the Cryogen white paper, the Curious metallic paper. I think that paper gives it more of an ability to blend like I'm looking for. So you can sure experiment with different kinds of papers and the kinds of things that you like to work with and see what works best for you. I'm going to go in now and do the grass part. For the grass area, I don't mind at all if it's a little bit more splotchy. So you'll see me kind of using more of a kind of a pounding technique with the acrylic block as I go here. Okay, so I think I'm just going to leave it there. I really kind of like some of these areas that are kind of dark and built in. Every time that you do this, you kind of end up with a little bit of a different effect, and I love that about painting like this. So at this point, what I would do is get out my heat embossing tool, and I would dry it a little bit. As you can see, it's kind of warped from the water that was added. And so if you dry it with the heat embossing tool, and then, let me try to get this out of our way here. Dry it with your heat embossing tool, and then I found that this technique works really well for flattening the layer that we just painted. So what I have is my A kettlebug layer, B plate, then my layer that I painted, the C plate, and then a couple of just scratch papers that I put in there to give it a little bit more tightness when I put it through the kettlebug. So you can see that this is one of the layers that I painted earlier, and now that it's all dried, you can really, I hope you can get a view of how sparkly and shimmery some of those areas are, and the difference between the different colors of paint really add a nice layer there. So that's all done. I'm going to go ahead then and bring in all of our layers. One of the things that I do want to show you is how I cut out the printed version of the DigiStamp. So to get it just exactly the way I want it to, so the horse shows behind the fence exactly where I want it to be, I kind of line it up like this, and I used a pencil and went around and marked all of the sides so that I could then cut it and my image would appear behind the fence exactly the way I want it to. So that's just a little tip for you on the placement and how to cut it so that your DigiStamp is the same size as the layers that you're working with. On the finished project that I didn't do it on this layer, but I did add in some white gesso. This is kind of a fun paint to use, and it kind of adds just a little bit of texture on the fence. I really wanted a white fence so that the brown horse showed nicely behind it, and the white gesso is kind of nice, just an added little touch on the fence layer to give it a little bit of texture. But At this point, we're ready to go ahead and start building the 3D card. I did go ahead earlier and use the Copic colors to color the limbs, and so I'll bring those in just so that you can get a look at the colors that I used. It's a very simple little area to color, so you don't have to spend too much time on the Copic coloring of that part. I also think, and I didn't do it on my projects, but I think that this project would be so cute with some punched leaves added and kind of glued onto the branches, and add another little dimension and layer to what we're doing. So at this point, we're ready for the accordion sides. And I've gone ahead because I think most of us know how to make these accordions. These are 5x2" pieces of Cryogen white paper, and I have scored them every 1/4 of an inch, so that what I end up with is, I'm looking for the first fold to be a valley fold and the last fold to be a valley fold. And so keep that in mind as you're placing it, getting ready to assemble these pieces. We want to start out with the first part that's the valley fold kind of going to the inside of our project. So I'm going to add some glue and get our top layer added. Okay, now we're ready for our next layer. You have lots of choices inside of the accordion folds here to decide where you want your fence layer to be. I think for this project, I'm probably going to go ahead and glue it right here. You just want to make sure that you do it in the same position on both sides. Okay, so now you can see that I have 2 of the layers. For the final layer in the back, just a little tip because I've done this wrong before, you want to glue the Digi-Stamp printed inside of this last valley fold. If you glue it on the back, then of course, as I found out on another project, that white kind of border shows on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that part. Okay, there's all the pieces of our layers all put together. You can see how they really give such a nice effect. For some of the last projects that I've done, I've glued the gate a little bit closer. So, it's fun to kind of just keep making these types of projects and then experimenting with what works best for you. But I'm really liking how that looks with the different layers. I am seeing that I've got a little piece of a pencil mark, so I'm going to use this opportunity to show you one of my favorite tools that I like to work with. This is actually a kneadable artist eraser, and I use it a lot while I'm sketching and working on my artwork. But the nice thing about this for all crafters is that when you erase with it, it doesn't leave any of those little eraser pieces that we're always trying to sweep off of our craft area. So if you use an eraser a lot, and if those little pieces of eraser kind of bug you because they get into everything, go ahead and try to pick up one of these kneadable erasers. The nice thing is they kind of form and shape into whatever you want to erase, but a really great tool for everyone. So I'm going to move that to the side, and we're going to go ahead and start to build now the part of the card that kind of wraps around it. To do that, I've got 2 pieces of cardstock that I've already scored and put the decorative edging on. This top piece of cardstock is 7.5 by 5 1/4. It is scored at 5 1/4 and 6 inches. The second piece of cardstock is 6 1/2 by 5 1/4, and it's scored at the very same measurements, scored at 5 1/4 and 6 inches. So how this is going to go together, once you've scored it, go ahead and fold along those score lines so that you're folding toward the inside. And for this I'm using the white basil, so I wanted the textured part to be on the outside. So this will be the back frame of our card, and this part will be the front frame. And it's going to glue in right here on this edge. So I'm going to add glue and glue it right here. Okay, so now that we have our card base that's going to hold our 3D card, the next thing that we need is the ribbon that we're going to wrap around it. I have a piece of 14-inch ribbon that I'm going to be using. I'm actually going to attach it here, wrap it around, and bring it to the front. I do want to mention that I did use my ribbon cutter for this project because I felt like the edge of this project was going to be getting a lot of wear and tear going through the buckle. So what I want to do now is just kind of eye where I want the adhesive to be attached for this ribbon. And basically the idea is that I want it to come around to the front, but I don't want it to go past the flap because I want it to actually come on top of the flap here. So I'm going to add my adhesive to about right there. One of the fun things I like to do, another little helpful thing, is grab one of your tools and kind of mark that spot where you want to add adhesive to, and so it just kind of holds it there nicely for you, and you know you don't go past the area that you wanted to add adhesive to. I'm going to add a piece of score tape. This is the wider version of the score tape, and I'm just going to place it all along that length of ribbon where I measured it to. And now I'll add it to my project. Okay, now the ribbon is added, we are ready to go ahead, and I think at this point I'll go ahead and just get our 3D part of the card added. I'm just going to add adhesive to the back and glue it right into the back of this card. Okay, at this point I'm going to go ahead and finish decorating the card. I'm going to bring in the pieces. I'm going to decorate the front flap as well as the inside flap. And I will be sure and put measurements on the video for you so that you know the sizes of papers that I've used. Okay, at this point we're ready to go ahead and add our buckle. I've already made my buckle, and again on the video I'll just print out the measurements for you. In making the buckle, after I had it all together and glued together, I measured in 1/4 inch from all sides and marked it lightly with a pencil so that that gave me the cut line that I wanted to make on both narrow sides of my buckle. And I just used a craft knife to make my cuts. You can see it's not perfect, but I just tried to kind of make a cut that's a little bit wider than just a single cut so that my ribbon can travel through. And now I can go in and remove with my eraser some of those pencil lines really quick. Okay. To add this to our project, again I want to kind of take a look at where I want this to be. I don't want it to be glued through that buckle opening, and of course I don't want it to be glued, you know, past this space here. So I'm actually going to place hot glue in this area. Okay, we're going to let that kind of dry a little bit, and I'm going to work on the front sentiment piece. Again, I will give you measurements on the video. Okay, there's our project basically all put together. I'm going to slide the ribbon through so you can kind of see how that all comes together. For the original project that I made, I did add some glimmer mist to my brown cardstock there. It's kind of just a nice added touch. It gives it a little bit of a different feel. And I also did do some inking on the edge of my project. I know that some of you do inking a lot, and I think that there are probably some crafters out there who don't. So I thought I would just show you how I like to do my inking. This is the vintage photo, and I love doing, I use this ink all of the time for inking edges. But this is just a little piece of foam. You could use a makeup foam piece. This is actually the kind that's made for putting on those little ink things from Ranger. But I like to do the ink like this. I think it gives me a little bit of a better control over the inking than if I just took the ink pad itself and used it. So that's just another little tip. I'm not going to take the time to do all of the inking because you know, it just takes some time to go around the edges, but just ink where you like. I did go ahead and ink the sides of the buckle because I think that made it, you know, kind of all seem to go together a little bit better. So I'm going to move this to the side, and the last thing that I want to show you is another little fun tool that I like to use. I'll bring in my finished project so that you can see that I did add some flowers. And there's lots of places to add extra embellishments if you'd like to take the time to do that. But I know that a lot of times we're all working with the little tiny pearls and little tiny beads, and those sometimes get kind of hard to handle. My experience with the adhesive that comes with these beads is that it just doesn't stick. The beads come off of it very easily, or the little gems come off of it easily. So I usually peel my gems off of the background, and then I use either my quick dry adhesive glue or crystal accents to go ahead and attach them to my project. That way I feel like they're gonna stay and not fall off when I send them to one of my friends. But the nice thing about this tool is that I can slide it up onto the edge of this tool, and of course it's not going to work as easily while I'm on a video, but you can see I can get it up onto the very edge of this tool and then set it on my project in my glue exactly where I want it to be. So it's just a nice little tool. This is an artist's palette knife, and they come in all kinds of different sizes. I like this one because it's real narrow, and you can see mine is well loved and well used. I've used it probably since high school. So it's a nice little tool to have, and just another little tip if you find that you have difficulty sometimes handling those little beads. So anyway, that is our completed project for the 3D card. I hope that you enjoyed it. Like I said, we're going to offer the frames so that you can make a project like this with the Field of Dreams Digistamp or with other stamps that you have. And thank you so much for watching our video.